Eureka! You found us! Welcome to the Check Out California radio show, your key to California hospitality. Hosted by Rad Gantos, principal of Rad Gantos and Associates, a hospitality and commercial real estate design firm. And Craig Sullivan, Chief Development Officer of Broughton Hotels, a boutique hotel management company. Check Out California is focused on our state's hospitality, travel, and tourism markets, and on the large part they play in California's vibrant and innovative economic diversity and unique quality of life. Now, here are your hosts, Rad Gantos and Craig Sullivan.
Oh, you're pointing at me?
Go, guy.
Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of Check Out California. We've got Rad Gantos and Craig Sullivan. That is I, and we've got a special guest today. We've got Weston Spiegel, who is our GM and rock star for our hotel under development in Northern California, the Park James.
If you're watching on Facebook, is the guy I'm pointing to right there.
Right there. Right there.
It's not fair putting a bald guy in between you two.
Yeah, I cut my hair.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. Just a little kind of ground rules here. Go back to your corners. No, I'm just kidding. If this was for the benefit of anybody who had been listening to us just a few minutes ago when we were closing out the Rad Life, we got a little heated. So again, you can listen to us on octalkradio.net by clicking the Listen Live button, or you can go to the OC Talk Radio Facebook page or YouTube channel and watch us live, both audio and video, or you can also be watching on my own personal page. We're trying to figure out how to feed it directly to the Check Out California and Greg's page at the same time. So again, call us in if you have any questions for Weston or for Greg or I at 949-330-7761. Hey, Paul, I got the number after 2 years of being on the air.
There you go. You have to introduce me a little bit because
Outstanding.
they heard my voice. And
who remembers phone numbers anymore? Do you rember phone numbers anymore? No, that's what I have a contacts for on my phone.
So you have to introduce me as well.
And Paul Roberts behind the mic.
Our engineer.
Our engineers, our own Robin to our Howard Stern. And he's off camera usually, but that's for the safety of our audience, really. Okay. Yes. So anyway, welcome, Weston. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Man.
Can I ask one just very difficult question? I'll try and shut up here. He works for Broughton Hotels.
Yeah.
But his name is Weston.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Owen.
Okay. Okay.
But we'll get back to that. Actually, I'll kind of school you in a minute. But Weston, man, Greg sent me their bio. Thanks for sending the information. I couldn't read past the first paragraph. You've been at hospitality for a long time.
It's in my DNA, absolutely. It was by choice. Did not get stuck in this industry, and been lucky enough to not have been pigeonholed in one sector of food and beverage by any means.
Was that by choice too? Did you plan to actually try to get a more well-rounded thing, or was it just opportunities that came your way, or
a little bit of both? There was definitely some strategy involved, but there was some luck and some strategy.
Trying to get Rod, every time he turns to look at you, he goes off the mic.
Okay. I will not turn and look at you.
Don't look at him.
Yeah. He's very distracting, though.
Weston, why don't you give us a little bit on your background for our listeners? And,
yeah,
you and I have been working together for a short time now, and, I know a good part of it, but I'd like you to just kind of give us a Reader's Digest synopsis and, give our audience your background.
Absolutely. So I've again, been lucky enough, fortunate enough to not be stuck in one sector. So I've done food and beverage concept at the St. Regis with Aqua Restaurant out of San Francisco, and your traditional fine dining with the amazing chef of Michael Mina, all the way to the other spectrum of doing burgers and beers under the umbrella of Walt Disney Company with the ESPN Zone.
And I have to say, I've been to Aqua. It's an amazing. How many of them are there? There's
well, now sore subject. When Charles Conde passed away, the owner and founder, they've since closed them down.
Oh my goodness,
but
I didn't know that.
Michael Mina is still at the St. Regis with Stonehill Tavern.
Now, when you say Aqua, are you talking about San Francisco Financial District, or
yes?
Okay.
And there was one at the
phenomenal.
Wasn't there
That
one
was
at
the original.
That was the one at St. Regis.
Phenomenal restaurant.
St. Regis, yes.
That's right. I went to
Yes.
one at St.
St.
Regis.
Regis in
Las Vegas.
in Dana Point.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is now the Monarch Beach.
Which is now the Monarch Beach,
Right.
and now Stonehill Tavern.
Tavern is in there.
Phenomenal chef, famous chef,
Michael
phenomenal
Mina.
restaurant.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I didn't know it was gone.
Yeah.
We have to have a moment of silence.
So the one, and if anybody's been to Aqua, you know exactly why Paul just said that, right? It's phenomenal. So the one in the financial district in San Francisco is gone?
Closed. It had an amazing run for San Francisco, for the city. I mean, as we know, being in the industry, San Francisco is uber competitive in food and beverage, and Aqua had a 20+ year run at the top.
You know,
so.
just a little shout out. The gentleman who introduced me to that restaurant, and it was a member of the my expanded spa family, was a gentleman by the name of Philippe Thurine from Napa. And I mean, you know, we all, if you're fortunate enough to dine in nice dining establishments, right, you have memorable moments. That is right there at the top two.
Oh, Aqua's always
right.
Been, yeah.
It's, I mean, amazing. So yeah, moment of silence for sure. So you said something about DNA. Like it's in your DNA. When you say it was in your DNA, do you mean like there's a legacy, a history component to that? Do you come from a family that was involved in hospitality? Or is it just a choice you made, and if so, why?
No, so the family was not in hospitality. Well, they paid a lot of checks in hospitality.
And we'd like to thank them for that.
Yes, thank you.
I was born in San Francisco in the Bay Area. Went to great restaurants and enjoyed dining out from a very young age. My two older brothers did not enjoy it. I enjoyed putting on a suit as a youngster and going to the likes of Stars and Trader Vic's.
Oh, one of those.
Absolutely. And, you know, so... And then that segued into my grandparents moving up to St. Helena in Napa Valley, and
Beautiful part.
being around wine as a youngster and bottling wine at a very young age and running around Meadowwood and the amazing Napa Valley.
You started in the Bay Area as far as your professional path on hospitality?
No, I started in Las Vegas at Spiegel restaurant. That was not on the resume. That was the introduction, if you will, and started off as a busboy at Spiegel and Caesar's Palace.
So why Vegas from Northern California?
UNLV. That's when I went out to school.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You were at the hospitality school there, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, definitely purposeful. I mean, you didn't just find yourself in the industry; you actually sought it out.
Absolutely.
And then there was, I mean, after your stretch at the St. Regis, you've been in Southern California, right? Or did you go somewhere else?
For the most part, let's see, I got to run through it. Yes, no, I've stayed in Southern California. I had a stint with Saddle Ranch Chop House and managed operations for Arizona as well as here in California. Had a mechanical bull in the center of our restaurants, so a little bit different from
Aqua.
Aqua.
Up on Sunset, yeah, I remember that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then segued from there on over to the sports capital of the world, Staples Center and Microsoft Theater.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so again, with that, every opportunity, I'm sure the scope and scale of the operation and your responsibilities increased.
Absolutely. I thought initially I wanted to be a sommelier, and that was the path I was going down with St. Regis and with Aqua, and studying underneath a few great master sommeliers, also with Disney and again with Aqua. And then I realized that my true passion was leading people and managing people. The wine wouldn't talk back to me unless it was corked. So I enjoyed
just wines. It was too easy.
So I still carry that passion for wine, without a doubt, and I've added beer and spirits in that portfolio as well. But I truly enjoy leading people, and that's where that scope continued to increase.
So how many years are we talking about, Weston?
Man, I think we're going on of leadership. We're going on about I think 14 years.
It's very, very impressive.
Yeah.
And so what made you make the transition to the general manager position at this new property?
It was quite the change from Staples Center and my 700 union employees. I dreamt as an 8-year-old of opening. Well, I thought I'd be the owner of owning my own hotel. So this is that first step, being involved from the ground up in a project like this with the team that's involved. It was a project I was consulting on originally, and thankfully was doing some decent work to where they wanted to hire me full time.
That's awesome.
And was just again, I dreamt of being involved from this life cycle of infancy to to the birth of this new property.
Somebody tweeted, and I think it's a point to make here. Tell us, I don't think you mentioned where this new property is, and tell us an overview of what it is. This
Yes.
is a hotel that Broughton is building?
Boutique hotel in Menlo Park, California. So
Okay.
2 miles from Stanford University, Silicon Valley. And Broughton will be the operator, and then Pollock Financial Group is the ownership.
And what's it to be called?
The Park James Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
Should be open in about 11 months,
Okay.
from what I
I
understand.
think when you say
And,
second,
and how
second
big,
quarter of
what size,
2018?
what's in it, what do I see there if I go there?
61 rooms, 4 floors, full food and beverage experience as well. Sit-down restaurant, large patio, and then a great outdoor garden dining area as well.
Cool.
So Staples Center, 700 employees, to 64-bed,
61.
61-bed. I just
61
key. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I just did an expansion for you, Greg.
Yeah.
Okay.
The city will be
Yeah,
happy on that.
oops, sorry. We're going to delay your occupancy.
We would love to add another floor.
But okay, so but I mean that's kind of interesting, right? I mean, the scale of that, it's kind of interesting. It's a totally different animal from what you've just been doing,
Oh, absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So, what do you say to people that are in hospitality that only look at hospitality projects as being these large monstrosities that are 300, 400 keys, large footprint projects, and you look at a project like this that is in a pretty affluent neighborhood,
Yes.
right? And yet I know personally, and us that are involved in industry, there's a lot of excitement about properties like that.
Right.
So what has happened? I mean, you've been at this for 14 years. You've been kind of in that zone.
Yeah.
How do you explain that to people? How do you introduce them to that idea, the concept of something like that?
Well, the challenge on this project isn't so much the number of employees or number of rooms for me, but the expectations are world class. And again, the team that I'm working with, PFG, and then to align with Larry and Craig on the Broughton team, it was just too darn attractive to pass up. And off the record, I don't think I'll miss the union all that much. But
Well, no, I mean,
or the number of employees.
Yes.
or the number of the logistics of something that you've been doing.
But-
So
Send those nasty comments to
behave yourself over there. But so that's interesting. So I hear there's a lot of usage of terminology such as world class, cutting edge, one-on-one customer service. Okay, and Craig knows this about me, right? There's jargon in the hospitality industry, like in any other industry, that means absolutely squat. Okay, so let's talk about that. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. You brought it up, right? You said that kind of like it's world class expectations, and I understand this. It was too hard to pass up. Right, like there's an excitement in trying to meet those kind of whatever it is, right?
Yes.
So let's define those for people that are listening, relevant to the Park James Hotel.
Well, there's a dichotomy going on at this property, and what is going to be our soul, if you will,
Okay.
to where we are going to have the service experience of that St. Regis, but we're going to do it in a darn fun, authentic, truly passionate way.
But he just keeps throwing those words around, doesn't he?
And you can keep on
This is-
challenging me.
Well, that's what, and I'm doing this, and I appreciate you being a good sport about this because I really believe that there's quite a difference. Like a lot of people will throw those around and it'll look great on a brochure, but then basically they don't understand that actually sets maybe undefinable expectations that people have.
I love it.
But
You're right.
they have a particular sense that I'm expecting something that is positive when I go in there. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's supposed to like awe me, right? So, and I want to be, and I'm trying to be fair. So specific to that property, what have you guys been working on? If you can share that at this point before opening or not, that to excite people about that. What does that mean to in the Park James case?
There's some components we can share, but again, we are not going to be your lobby that you walk into with the chandelier and the marble. Our value is going to again come through what you feel and what you sincerely experience and being valued as an individual and embracing that. The Park James demographic is going to be that person that strives for success, but doesn't necessarily celebrate it with diamonds as much as life experiences and values quality, over quantity. But it's going to be a challenge, but we've strategized, I think, extremely well. been blessed with, again, an amazing team, from the architect to the designer to our Broughton team. We're going to nail it. So I can go into a few more details, but we're going to save a few secrets as well.
So no gold letters on the front of the building?
No gold letters in the front of the
All
buildings.
right.
Now, the nice thing is, Weston brings all this experience and talent, and he knows the area. And I think you probably went through the same experience that I did, when Larry made an offer. That, this is within our company's DNA as well. We're all celebrating the hospitality sector. We all understand that this is a service industry, and it is about the life experience. It's about the guest not having any type of qualms getting out of the car, that buyer's remorse where you get at some of these bigger box hotels, and you hit the lobby
Happens
and you're
every
going,
day.
why am I here?
Happens every day.
This is an intimate experience that, and I want Weston to touch on, a little bit of the restaurant, and I'm hoping he will, tell everybody the name, because I think it's phenomenal, and his vision for the restaurant is part of that. It is the experience. It's them knowing, Mr. Gantos, welcome back. We're nice. It's so nice to have you again. We've got your favorite room ready for you. Were there any reservations at the restaurant that you want us to make for you? Do you have a party of 12 joining you? Yes, we'll have the VU champagne or whatever you want ready for you. So, Weston, why don't you talk a little bit about the restaurant?
Before we do, because I know Paul's signaling me that we've got about 5 minutes before we go to break. So if you,
half-hour break, Paul.
I really want to delve into the food and beverage component of this because of your background, right? And really talk about it. So do you want to do it after the break when we come back, or we just talk about something else right now as far as the property goes for a few minutes?
Can I give you another tweet that came in?
Go ahead.
Give
Paul.
us another tweet.
Somebody wants to know, I think they're trying to picture this. Is there a property you can compare it to? Is there something, or give us some examples of other places so they can bring this vision to life, or is this totally unique? Must be something you could sort of compare it to that you're shooting for.
It's unique as it is
Or other properties
the area
Broughton
the state
has,
is. But again, the comparison, and Weston, please correct me if I'm wrong. Your staff and your interview process, you're bringing a group of people together that's going to have an A game all the time. They're putting the guest first. They're putting, they're taking pride and ownership of the hotel and the experience. So there are similarities between various boutique hotels in that particular space, but this one's going to be exceedingly unique because of where it's
Okay,
at
so
in the state.
I'll ask a question. Why 61 keys in Menlo Park?
That's all they'd let us build.
Menlo Park.
Pretty simple answer.
And we're very thankful to get the 61 keys.
Oh yeah. No,
So,
I understand. I understand the skill component of it, right?
Yeah.
And I understand that,
Yeah.
especially with Menlo Park.
Yes.
But you would think that there were offerings of a higher caliber in that area, given the affluence of the neighborhood, right? But yet, even if there were, I think what I'm hearing is that they were more sort of the traditional fare, right? The normal way that level of product is basically pitched, and that maybe the community was ready, and especially that end user, if you will, that potential guest, they were ready and hungry for something that was different.
Absolutely, and we are going to be a part of the community. We are not going to be a chain that's based out of some big city that comes in and puts the box down. This hotel is going to represent Menlo Park. It's in our name. James Oliver and the Park James is a reason why that the name came out to be what it is. James Oliver is a founder of Menlo Park. So that was a nod we wanted to give back to the city. Pollock Financial Group has been in Menlo Park, more specifically Portola Valley, but all in that vicinity, I think for 60 years plus. And they are entrenched in the community. They are part of the community. And so this isn't just another financial deal for PFG, Pollock Financial Group. This is something to where this is something giving back, if you will, to the community.
Community vested in the community, vested in the success of the community, celebrating that. No, I was prodding you because I had a feeling that was the case, and thank you for bringing the name component out of it, because that would have been my next question. Like Park James, isn't that in London? You know, but there's the background of why, and you use the word authenticity, and I think that's sort of some of the examples of where that word comes to play. Paul, why don't we take the break and then we'll come back and talk the food and beverage.
Imagine what it would feel like to lose everything. Your job, your home, your family, your dignity. This has happened to thousands of the men, women, veterans, and young adults we serve at Working Wardrobes. What do we do to help? We provide career development services, life skills workshops, job skills training. We provide the perfect interview outfit, and we get clients placed in jobs. Call Working Wardrobes, 714-210-2460. Donate, volunteer, invest, hire.
When you use the Premier Rewards Gold Card from American Express, the rewards points can keep on multiplying. Buy 3 with triple points on airfare. Buy 2 with double points on gas and groceries. And a single point for pretty much every other dollar you spend on the card. Then, start choosing from over 1 million rewards to redeem all those points. Apply today and the annual fee for the first year is on us. Call 1-800-AXP-GOLD or visit AXPGold.com. The annual fee for the card is $175. See terms, conditions, and restrictions at AXPGold.com.
All right, we're back talking about the Park James Hotel.
Well,
in Menlo Park.
as always, interesting conversations during the break, right? Including the fact that Craig here, which I thought was my friend, just accused me of sharing the same brain with Paul. Okay, and I flashed back on, young Frankenstein scenes for some reason.
Frankenstein. It's Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. No, it's not Frankenstein. Frankenstein, and it's Abby Normal. So thank you very much, Craig, for that. Yeah, always good to have.
And I'm Igor. So.
Yes. Yeah. So Mel Brooks, we love you. But I was talking to Weston, and I was saying, Staples Center, come on, you got to let me know. Like, what can you tell me? Some stories. How long were you at the Staples Center?
I was there just under 5 years.
Yeah, that's a good amount of time for some stories.
Started with a full head of hair like you guys.
Were you in the actual Staples Center, like where they have the private VI clubs, or were you in some other place? I remember you told us, I just don't remember.
I was in the Staples Center. My office was in Staples Center, and then my team ran all food and beverage for Staples Center, as well as Microsoft Theater, which is right across the street.
Microsoft Theater, yeah.
So before we get to the food and beverage on the Park James, which I'm curious to know what you guys are planning and when can I book my trip to get up there?
Yes.
And sample it. But give us a couple of stories about Staples Center experience. Names of the guilty or the innocent shall be.
Well, the Grammy Awards were always. I mentioned dichotomy earlier. It was a great time, and then a time you absolutely hated as well. Your normal concert, you have 3 or 4 dressing rooms. The Grammys, you have 40, and they're the top artists in the world.
Yeah.
So those were always my catering team, and I always enjoyed when the writers came in for the artists. And
explain what a writer is. Where I know this for a fact, but they basically write in. There's a writer in their contract. I got to have peanuts, and they can only be these type. Or I have to have M&Ms, and they can only be the red ones.
You nailed it, Paul. Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
So that is a writer. Each artist has one, and depending on their ego, they get as specific as those M&M colors, or they're quite easy, and they just want their certain bottle of wine or liquor. But besides the fun ones of getting in the legends of Sir Paul McCartney, if you will, and I'll leave his alone, there was one artist in particular, and this was just a few years ago, that requested a 10-week-old Siberian Husky. And yes,
specifically 10 weeks.
And you've got to stop and pause on that for a minute.
Yeah, I am.
Because your immediate reaction as leading this team and looking at this is, well, absolutely not. But then you stop for a minute and you think, what if I can only find 9 weeks?
Or 11.
Yeah. So,
and what does this have to do with food and beverage? Were they going to roast them or eat them? Or
I can't answer that.
Not in the city limits.
Yeah, absolutely. But that was definitely a fun request.
So did you fulfill the writer?
No,
Okay.
Absolutely not.
That's hilarious. So could it possibly that people just write that stuff in to see if they can actually get people to
just for grins?
There's a thought that that is the whole purpose of some of these crazy requests, is just the fact to check if we are reading them. and paying attention to the details.
How funny.
Yeah. But the Grammys were always a blast. The Emmy Awards at Microsoft Theater are always very fun. And then my favorite were the ESPY Awards, which is basically the Grammys for the sports world.
Did it just happen? Didn't it just happen?
They just did. I was there. I finally got to enjoy it on the other side as a guest, and it was much better as rather than working.
I was at the Four Seasons in Beverly Hills and on Doheny that weekend with my wife, and they were doing some stuff downstairs.
Yeah.
And we had a bunch of the handlers and stuff on the pool, and you could tell like who the people that were there to be to be awarded or whatever, and then all the handlers roaming around them, and then they had to set up stuff for interviews downstairs. Yeah, that's funny. So I'm going to put this out to anybody.
Before we go to the
well, I was going to ask about the Husky.
Well,
Leave it alone.
No, we were going to
leave it alone.
Out of all the events there, okay, you get basketball games, hockey games, and those got to be pretty much corporate. Those are expense account items.
Well, on
Monday through Thursday, I would
on the
think.
premium side of the operation, yes.
Yeah.
But we broke up our operations in concessions and premium.
Yeah. Okay, so basketball, sports, concerts.
Yes.
What concerts are the ones that really stand out to you that were the moneymakers and where you probably had the excess food and beverage sales? Would it be like Metallica coming in, or
I think it'd be older demographics than the younger. I would think the younger would be.
You would think, but you are wrong, Paul. The older demographic
can't take it anymore.
Well, no, they'd surprise you on that front, but they're a little more wise with their finances.
Yeah.
So the number one draw, the number one revenue driver on the food and beverage side of concerts is country.
Oh, country.
We would, and then you've got to get specific with country because an older artist again is not going to be that draw, but the likes of an Eric Church is going to be an absolute home run. But again, how that show sets up is critical. Are there intermissions leading up to that show? Take Adele, for example. We had 8 Adele shows last year. It saved my team's bonus because we had 8 of them, but not a great driver on food and beverage because there was no breaks, there was no intermissions. Yeah. So
now with
very
the country music, and I'm just trying to play this out in my head. I'm thinking drink-wise, it is all types of beer, and it's probably tequila and Jack Daniels.
Very little tequila, heavy whiskey.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm thinking
served responsibly.
Yeah, of course.
But they were shots. They
with
weren't...
emphasis on the word served.
We don't serve any shots.
Okay.
But that we served a lot of neat drinks potentially.
Okay, so it's because it's about speed. You've got to get.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So if you're making margaritas, that's slowing everything down.
So
to a degree.
on average, what are we talking
Great
about?
question.
What are we talking about on a take on a concert?
You got to
like
talk into the mic though.
a take on a concert like that.
I'll give you a ballpark without getting too specific.
Yeah.
But food and beverage alone, you're breaking $500,000, and that's with losing about 20% of the arena because there's backstage.
And that's in one night
Per concert.
Depends on the concert. You can.
But it could be up that.
I've done concerts where we did 80,000, and then I've broken 700,000.
Wow.
in one night.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. See, this is part of the rock star and magic that Weston's bringing to the Park James and to Broughton hotels. I mean, he's got this dialed in.
Well,
he knows the fine dining. He knows the intimacy factor. He knows the large crowds. So if there's
And he knows where to get a 10-week hussy.
There you go. There you go. Hey, now, I got an 11-year-old golden retriever.
So when you go to the
that's
Park
going to be
James,
a very old star.
when you go to the Park James, there's nothing too outrageous you can ask for.
No, there won't be. I think I've seen it all.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, what I was going to say, seriously, though, from a business perspective, I mean, that is absolutely invaluable information and seasoning, right? Because it's amazing how many times I see people running food and beverage, and they just don't even have a friggin' clue relevant to even the alcohol, right?
Yeah.
How much difference it does make if it's dialed in correctly.
Oh, absolutely. And Craig was about to touch on it, was, I believe, going into the strategy of your menu.
Yeah.
When you're running an operation like a Staples Center, you've got to be very strategic on what you can produce so you can get that throughput at the line, set up your operation ergonomically to where your staff are not having to move from that pivot foot, and you've got to burn through those lines.
So how many people are you serving in a situation like that, potentially?
Throughout the building, well, on a basketball game, it's 18,000 consistently. I mean, you're talking at the arena again. I called it the sports capital of the world. As being a Northern California guy, I still respect the Staples Center. I think is the greatest arena in the world and does the most events.
Well, I'm just saying it's the logistics involved with an exercise of that nature and 700 employees. I mean, you're talking about running a little army.
Yes.
Not even little, really.
Well, you got to be able to crank it out. That's what I'm hearing.
Right.
When I had a bar years ago, we would get in this debate all the time. We wanted to sell craft cocktails, but the time it took to make those, there were certain times a day we just couldn't. We offered them, but we hoped nobody bought them because it would slow down the whole operation. On a Saturday night, when you're just trying to slam stuff out and get it out as quick as you can, you can't be making craft cocktails.
So you are right on some fronts there. You still can, but again, it's going to be the strategic setup to that.
Right.
Are you batching some of them?
Exactly.
Put a few infusion drinks there, and then do a beautiful sangria there as well, and make that more affordable in that $8-9 range rather than your $14 cocktail for speed of service as well.
There you go.
So that's very interesting. You're going from a large venue with that kind of draw, with that kind of logistics, okay, to a smaller venue with the wealth of all that wealth of knowledge. So how did that play out, and what do you guys have planned for food and beverage in Park James?
Nice. Well, again, being involved from the ground up was a dream. Laying out, having a say in laying out and designing my own kitchen. Sorry to my chef that eventually comes on board, but he can blame me.
It's my kitchen.
Laying out the bar equipment, working with the designers and architects on the restaurant. I mean, that's what you dream of when you're in a role like mine. So again, that was a huge part of the attraction, and then establishing again the soul to what we're going to be as a hotel and an experience, and that. On the hotel side, when we talked about that authenticity, that natural craftsmanship approach to the guest experience of what you're going to feel when you walk in the hotel is going to be aligned and carried throughout our food and beverage experience as well.
So will there be signature things that you see when you walk in, or that you don't
can you
see?
share some specifics?
Usually when you talk about a soul, it's defined, there's something visual that you remember and take away. It was there. It wasn't there. I didn't see the chandelier. I did see the chandelier. And then there's usually some signature kinds of items on the menu. We have a certain something that you can't get anywhere else that instantly tells you where you're at.
Or a feel and a vibe, and not necessarily specifically an item-based thing. But what I mean, when you're saying, okay, the hotel and then the food and beverage, they kind of symbiotically are existing and feeding off each other, if you excuse the pun.
Yes.
Okay, what is that relevant to this specific property? And working on it so early on, that obviously gave you opportunities to do stuff that maybe you wouldn't have had it been an established environment already.
Yes. So there are going to be earth components, the woods, the restored woods that are being used in this hotel, both in the lobby, restaurant, in our hotel rooms, the leathers. That's the life, that's the earth that I talk about that's incorporated here. You walk through our lobby, the restaurant Oak and Violet, which we haven't gotten to, but I love that name. Yeah. Oak and Violet is off to your
Oak and Violet.
Oak and Violet is off to your right, and then we've got sliding glass wall on the left that opens up out to the courtyard. Big giant California oak tree, lit up out there. That's drawing you to come and lounge and order one of our infused spirits off the menu. Have that fresh fruit infused sangria, and again, that's going to be the craft approach. Those are the earth components, the life that I'm speaking of when you come into the Park James.
So for people that don't know Menlo Park,
yes,
since you guys tapped into sort of founder and some of that sort of history and legacy of Menlo Park, right? What unique two Menlo Park elements are being reflected in this hotel.
Are you going to have a garage from HP there or something?
No, we're not doing that.
Little tiny garage off where
We may or may not have investors from Google and Facebook. But I just mentioned California oak tree. Menlo Park, and I've said it now 3 times, there's this dichotomy of success. This demographic, this market is driven to succeed. Yet they have this balance too of loving the earth and appreciating life, and again throwing on and doing their corporate meetings in blue jeans and getting out and fly fishing on the weekend,
right,
and getting back on Monday and closing a big deal. So the restaurant and the experience is going to have that alignment as well.
Well, and you can see that in some of the larger compounds that are being built, the Apple, the Facebook, where that dichotomy that you're talking about exists. That it's really it's not about we are a powerhouse and we are built to look like something out of like a respect us or die kind of look. It's more of that duality, living that dichotomy, and in what you do work, because gosh, I can't even imagine how many hours people work at that. So those environments are pretty much their home. It's how they reflect themselves. That's awesome. And then who potentially is your customer for that property?
Well, on the hotel side, obviously it's going to be the traveler, the corporate traveler in that tech industry, VC industry. That's going to drive our hotel side of the business.
Okay. And why would they go there as opposed to the big box, the big chain, the big thing? I'm just trying to have you explain kind of the boutique experience for those that still haven't experienced.
They don't understand.
Absolutely.
No.
Our traveler is not going to be the traveler that's solely focused on banking some more points, if you will. They are more concerned, and they value the experience.
Yeah.
You'll have the option to whether you want to check in on your phone, bypass the front counter, and go straight to your room and check in with your key on your phone, and text for any additional requests you may want, or do a voice command through the, well, I won't name that, we're not signing that deal yet, through a technology that'll be in the room to make your reservations downstairs. Or you can have that option to, again, have that guest-facing experience as well. So there's going to be those options there. But again, this is all about the experience. The experience you seek is going to be the experience you receive, and you're not going to need to remind us on the second time.
Boutiques to me always seem to be private. They seem to be kind of low-key. They seem to be like a house, much more like a house than a hotel.
Yes.
And so you get that feeling like you're staying at a bed and breakfast, you're staying at somebody's house, you're staying someplace. So it doesn't have the same formality to it. It doesn't have the same feel to it. It certainly doesn't have the same rush to it, the chaos and the crowds.
You're right about that, Paul, and you can see from the boutique side of the sector, it's affected your everyday run-of-the-mill Marriott's, Hiltons, and Hyatts. Marriott now, instead of a lobby, it's the living room.
Yeah, right.
Okay, Hilton's doing some nice things and making it more communal and taking part of a page, not a page completely from the boutique sector, but part of it, and incorporating it. And you're seeing it in, some of the amenities have been added to the rooms over the past few years as well. And that was one of the things that got me excited about coming to work over at Broughton Hotels, was the boutique factor. And you get to that experience, because most of mine, admittedly, has been on branded hotels across the country. There's been some limited boutique experience, but mainly on the branded side. So this is, every day's a learning day. It's having associates like Weston and Larry and Robert and various others in the firm that they're a wealth of knowledge, and everybody's sharing their knowledge. We are truly a team. It's in every one of our DNAs. You've been to my office, Rat, and you see it. We're all engaged with one another.
Absolutely.
And I think it's the people.
And this is not a knock on brands, by the way. Branded hotels,
not at all. They serve a purpose. They're great hotels.
And there's a lot of respect there. But when you look at Menlo Park specifically, what they need is the park, James.
Well, because they want individuality.
Yes.
they prize individuality over conformity.
The irony,
Yes.
the irony in the hospitality industry, in a way, is that it's come full circle. When it first started, hotels like the Grand Tour and what have you were exactly that. Those were individual properties that you sought out to almost cross them off your book of I have stayed
and they
there.
reflected
I
the
have
owner, whoever
experienced
the owner
that,
was
right?
of that property. This was my place.
You know, the old villas that were converted and were basically, you know, the size of probably what you guys are talking about, if not smaller, right? On the coast, on the shorelines of Lake Como in northern Italy, or on the Amalfi Coast, or you know,
or to a Biltmore hotel,
or a Biltmore hotel, even when it started, right? Was on maybe on a little bit larger scale, but the same philosophy is that these were you toured to go to these destinations, right? And the interesting thing is, because it was so desired and somewhat maybe out of reach financially, that experience became packaged and distributed at a larger scale and larger property scale.
Absolutely.
And we just kept going and going and going. But that core essence of the desire of actually experiencing these unique offerings in unique settings, maybe even, right? Reflecting the environments that they are in, somehow authentically connecting to that, is always been there. I think, and now it's, you know, if you're able to afford it, then you can even get more and more exclusive. You know, the funny thing is that most people now, if you ask them, well, what is the number one thing that you would like, they would say, time, not like a noise, disconnect, right?
Yeah.
So I have a question, and it's specifically because this is Menlo Park, right?
Yes.
In the course of programming and strategizing for this property, right, how much conversation took place regarding the amount of technology to be instituted in this property?
Really good
and
question.
where do you, how do, you know, because, I mean, this is a high-tech environment, so were the expectations that this had to have every bell and whistle that is currently in place, or did it, I'm sure that conversation took place.
And can I add to that? Because that was one of the questions I was going to ask. How do you take all that technology and work it into an earth theme? You're trying to come up with something to connect with nature, a tree, the recycled woods. And that's an interesting dichotomy. And that's sort of anti-technology, to Rod's point, to escape, to be alone, to not be bombarded by technology, and yet you're in the technology capital of the world.
They're selling silence at spas these days, right? I mean, you're actually paying for silence, right? Okay, which if you've got a lot of kids in the house, I can understand you going and paying for silence, but they're selling silence. So this is an interesting question, and I think specifically to this property, which is uniquely positioned in a high-tech environment. How did you guys deal with that?
Yeah, and 20 years ago we were laughing when they said we're going to sell bottled water.
Right.
Yeah, right, exactly.
No, you're absolutely right. Technology was a significant, and continues to be, as we're building this hotel. We broke ground last November. It's a huge focus, but yes, there's a balance. That technology is available, but it's streamlined. So the system that I'm alluding to, that is going to be in your hotel room, it's one component. Okay, it's going to sit by itself on that nightstand, and that's it. You're not dealing with multiple pieces. And again, the technology, when you're in the lobby, you're in the restaurant, you're in our meeting space, it is there if you need it. So, for example, if you're doing a presentation, that picture frame will come off the wall, and there's your 80-inch touchscreen presentation monitor.
But it's not in your face all the time.
Not in your face. No, absolutely not.
So it's sort of seamless. It doesn't scream at you, but it's there, like a good waiter who's always there when you suddenly say, "Gee, I wish I had an extra roll," and he suddenly appears with that roll there. It's there at the right moment.
It does not jeopardize our soul of that authenticity, that natural, that earth component. It makes me think of there's two lakes up north. One of them you absolutely know of is Lake Tahoe.
Right.
Yeah.
The other is another lake called Lake Almanor, and what the people, the residents that live in Lake Almanor say is the difference between our two lakes is Lake Tahoe, you can't see the trees beyond the houses. Almanor, you can't see the homes beyond the trees. That's our technology versus our true soul.
Which is a conversation that actually every single property that says that they are into one-on-one customer service and a high-end deliverable experience should be asking themselves, and not necessarily struggling with, but should be address. Because you made actually a perfect, simple illustration. There are properties that will tell you, oh, we got to buy an 80-inch screen and put it in every room. It's about the size of the screen and the fact that it's there for you to see, even if you don't turn it on.
And we can brag about it. We got an 80-inch in every room, yeah.
And yet, the quality of that picture may be horrible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So here it is where it is there, but your soul is not predicated on the technology and how wired you are, which is an amazing statement to make in an area like that. In fact, it's an oasis, right? Because it's like, I know I'm connected, I know I can be, but it's a little bit of an escape. I can step away over here 10 minutes and actually disconnect for a split second, inches away from my large complex.
Sit under a tree.
And sit under a tree.
Yeah. Be present.
Now that tree is monitoring every bit of your biosphere, and knows that you're getting, it knows it's getting, you're getting parched and that waiter's on the way over with a gin and tonic or the craft drink, but it's still a tree. It's amazing. How much time do we still have, guys?
1 minute.
1 minute.
1 minute. But before we take off, let's get Oak and Violet again.
Yes.
When we first met, you were telling me how that is going to be a celebration of the local flavors and cuisines and wines. Could you go into that a little bit for our audience, for RAD?
It's going to be a celebration of California, if you will. And what struck me initially when I first met on this project and heard the vision from the ownership group over 2 years ago, what stood out to me first was El Camino Real. El Camino runs forever, right?
Right.
So
the King's Highway.
Translate to the Royal Road in Spanish, referring to the path of California missions.
Connected all the missions.
San Diego to Sonoma.
Yep.
So I looked at that and I said, we are blessed with the vegetables and the cattle and the grains and the spices and everything.
And the grapes that they brought
produce,
over and all this stuff.
It all comes here from California. We have the best of the best, not to mention the wine and now beer. I want to celebrate that. And I want our guests, our demographic, they sincerely care about their food. They want to be in tune with what they are consuming, what they're putting in their bodies.
I think both in terms of quality, health, and caliber, right?
Yes.
I mean,
so will there be heirloom, locally grown content?
That's a hat trick.
So every ingredient on our menu will be noted by the location, the farm.
You're going to source the food.
It's going to come from.
Yeah,
so
you're going to show the source of the food.
Whether you're ordering that margarita and it's infused with watermelon and jalapeno, the jalapeno will be noted. It comes from Rad Farms in Santa Cruz, and those strawberries comes from Craig Farms.
Great. Now everybody's going to call me and ask me for jalapenos from my farm.
Yes.
But it's fascinating because a couple of years ago I went to Mama's
Fish House
in Maui.
Same thing.
Famous.
Okay.
Yeah.
The funniest thing about that menu is it actually tells you the name of the fisherman
and the time.
And the time that they actually caught that fish.
I didn't know that.
Freshest fish you'll ever have is at Mama's
It actually tells you it's the freshest fish, and then it tells you what
Joe caught this 2 hours ago.
2 hours ago at this location.
Yeah.
How cool.
Absolutely. That is the mindset.
So that's actually awesome, and fits perfectly with the show, which basically is really wanting to focus on California. We have so much to offer.
We do,
and it's funny, right? Because not a lot of people do this.
No, and they're starting to catch on. More and more are. And Craig may mention an article we were sharing earlier today. It was ironic. It came out, just a few hours ago, and it basically describes what I drew up, the strategy I drew up over 2 years ago. But to one up the competition,
interesting.
We've got another trick up our sleeve that I'm not going to speak of.
It's just us. Come on. It's just us friends.
But you know what? I will speak to this because I was having a conversation about this sort of authenticity, and a few years ago, the catchword was disruptor. Okay, you have to be disruptive.
DC. We're not going there.
No, disruptor, right? Well, actually, if you want to talk about DC, somebody said to me...
No, don't start on that.
Somebody said to me, you don't need a rebellion. You need a revolution.
Don't go there.
Okay, but the article these guys are talking about, Weston and Greg is talking about, is that the de-evaluation of fancy dining. I know a lot of people that I know are either in the industry or food and beverage. So it's by Jody Panette, and she's the founder and CEO of CB5 Hospitality Consulting, and it's called The De-Evaluation of Fancy Dining. I haven't read it. It's a 2-pager. It's from Boutique Hotel Investment Conference. It's right here. So if anybody's interested, I'm sure.
So let's do this.
Call Rad at 949, and he'll send you.
I'm sure you guys can find it online. The interesting thing though about this, okay, is we get this kind of stuff all the time,
right?
Okay, where people are, oh, Eureka.
Yeah.
Eureka, I found it interesting, right? Okay.
There we
Eureka, California, check out California. Eureka, okay. Eureka, I have found it. I understand now, this is what I'm supposed to do, to your point, right, Weston? But here's the thing. You can put the same ingredients on the table for 5 different chefs, and every chef will come up with a different dish.
Yep.
Because it's the person that is putting the meal together that makes that experience.
So it's not just the terroir, not just the soil. It's the magic of the chef. Where can they go check out?
And how do they find out more about the hotel?
Yes.
I know it's not
this
open
is all
yet,
about checking out California. So how do they check out Broughton? How do they check out this project?
How do they get a hold of you?
Well, the website is being worked on as far as Park James. That has not been launched.
Do you have a URL yet?
We do not.
Okay, we'll put it out on Check Out California when you do have it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
But then as far as Broughton goes, you can see our portfolio at BroughtonHotels.com.
And spell Broughton.
Broughton Hotels, yes.
So spell
Broughton.
Sorry, BROUGHTON. Hotels is plural.
Okay.
Larry, you can stop holding your breath. I think I spelled it right.
And that's Larry Broughton. A big shout out. Hi, Larry.
Broughton Hotels is also our sponsor of today's show.
Broughton Hotels is sponsor today. You can reach Craig and I on Check Out California on Facebook, or you can call me at 949-212-8299, or email Rod, R-A-A-D, Gantus, G-H-A-N-T-O-U-S, at gmail.com. And Greg, how do they get hold of you?
You can reach me at Broughton Hotels, Sully at BroughtonHotels.com. And
didn't you land an airplane recently too? Wasn't there a
Captain
movie
Sully joke.
Oh no.
No.
Okay, all right.
Weston is like, great. I'm not coming back to
that's
this.
a different family.
All right.
But really interesting stuff. I mean, we joke and we kid about stuff on this show, but this is really cool stuff. This is innovative. Another, I think, shout out to the spirit of Menlo Park.
Authentic.
Menlo Park is
Unique.
about 30,000 people, right? I mean, it's again not a huge community, but it's very influential, very vital, and I really wish you guys luck with this property. It sounds amazing. I can't wait to visit.
It's going to be an amazing hotel.
And I do love the name.
I know, isn't it great?
Yeah,
it fits, and I want to see what Weston does with Stanford football. I can't wait to see the hotel and you in the middle of football
during those
season.
games.
Which, by the way,
I'll sleep up on the roof. I know I won't.
Well, when I said why Menlo Park, we didn't touch on that, but
Fear of the tree.
There's also
Fear of the tree.
There's also the Stanford component.
That's right.
Right, and the alumni that come in religiously to basically watch the game. So you're going to have a little bit of sports situation. It won't be too far to
It's going to be subtle, but no, we will embrace the tree.
The alumni from Stanford may not ask you for Alaskan Huskies, but they will.
That's Washington.
Maybe it's the same people.
That's Washington.
Okay. So thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank
as
you,
always, thanks Weston for being here. It was an awesome experience.
Weston, thank you. Thank you, audience.
And we'll see you in a couple of weeks on Check Out California.
You've been listening to Check Out California, your key to California hospitality, right here in Orange County's only community radio station, OCTalkRadio.net.